What's up, nerds? This is Cheshire from Cheshire Plays Games, and today I thought we would go and do a quick deck tech around Ramos Dragon Engine. Not really. This is just a 5-color commander, so we can play 5 colors. Don't even worry about it. Let's just push you way up there, because nobody actually needs you or wants you. What we're actually playing, however, is 1 gate, 2 gates, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 gates? What possible reason could we be playing 11 gates for? Maze's End, of course. So this has 3 and tap. To return Maze's End to its owner's hand, search your library for a gate card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. Sure, it comes in tapped, but we've got some things we can do with this. That is the main win condition of the deck. We want to win by Maze's End. So you're probably wondering, if we're playing gates, are we playing Guild Summit? Absolutely. When Guild Summit enters the battlefield, you can tap any number of untapped gates to draw a card, for each gate tapped this way. Whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Not bad for 1 blue and 2 colorless. Alright, so I'm hearing how Chesh are we going to go and get some extra lands? What are we going to do with them? You didn't see that. That's don't worry about that. Sylvan Library, 1 green and 1 colorless for an enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards from your hand drawn this turn, and for each of those cards, pay 4 life, or put the card on top of your library. Our life totals are pretty big in Commander, so that's not that terrible. We are, of course, having crop rotation, because what lands-based deck would be complete without having crop rotation? 1 green for an instant. As an additional cost to cast crop rotation, sacrifice a land. Search your library for a land card and put that onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Pretty good with Guild Summit too, to be honest. Expedition Map. This little artifact for 1 colorless has 2 and tap, sacrifice it, search your library for a land card, any land card mind you, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. We also have Open the Gates, which searches for either a basic land or a gate card and puts it into your hand. We have Traverse the Ulven World, which we're really using for the Delirium. So 1 green, and if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, instead search your library for a creature or land card, reveal it and put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library, because it helps us get Mace's End. We're of course playing Life from the Loam, which you should all be familiar with. This is 1 green and 1 colorless to return any 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. If your lands get destroyed, you will need this to help you win. It has Dredge 3, of course. Also, Sylvan Scrying, because again, land stack. 1 green, 1 colorless for a sorcery, search your library for a land card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So that is our way to semi-tutor and tutor for our gate cards. Well, what else do we have that can go and get some gate cards for us? One of my favorites, we've got Wargate. This tutor is 1 green, 1 white, and 1 blue, and X. Free sorcery. Search your library for a permanent card with converted mana cost of X or less, put it into play, and then shuffle your library. This is really handy for going and getting lands for us. X is 0. Casting cost is 0 for lands. Nice. Grapple with the Past. Much like Mulch, this is 1 green and 1 colorless for an instant. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. You then may return a creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Hour of Promise. Search your library for up to 2 land cards, then put them onto the battlefield tapped. It's easy with our gates, they come in tapped anyway. Then shuffle your library. Don't worry about the desert stuff, we're not playing any deserts at all. Scape Shift. Who doesn't love Scape Shift, right? Sacrifice any number of lands, search your library for up to that many land cards, and then put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. This in itself can basically just win you the game single-handedly. Mulch. It's 1 green and 1 colorless for a sorcery. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Realm Seekers. This is 4 colorless and 2 green for an Elf Scout 0/0. When they enter the battlefield, they enter with X +1/+1s, where X is the total of cards in all players' hands. Pretty spicy. You can pay 2 colorless and 1 green to remove a +1/+1 counter from Realm Seekers and search your library for a land card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. We of course have Tempt with Discovery. This is 1 green and 3. Search your library for a land card and then put it onto the battlefield. Each opponent may search his or her library, or their library it really should be, for a land card and then puts it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches their library in this way, search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Just so good. Way too good. We've got Circuitous Root. This is 3 colorless and 1 green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and or gate cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. It's really great end condition as well. We have Realms Uncharted. 1 green and 2 colors to search your library for 4 land cards with different names, and then reveal them. An opponent then chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard, and then the rest into your hand. So at this point, we're chucking a whole bunch of lands into play tapped. We're chucking them elsewhere. We're throwing them in the graveyard. We also have Entombed for this reason. So we can go and search our library for a card and then chuck that straight into our graveyard. Why would we want to chuck cards directly into our graveyard? Well, I'm happy that you asked, because we have a number of ways that we can get cards back from our discard pile / graveyard. First up, Eternal Witness. Good old Eternal Witness. 2 green and 1 for a Human Shaman, a 2/1, and when the witness enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Helpful. We of course have Ruminap Excavator. Oh, don't they just look pretty? This is a Naga Cleric, and a 2/3. You may play land cards from your graveyard. We also of course have Crucible of Worlds, which is 3 colorless for an artifact, and you can play land cards from your graveyard. Titania, Protector of Argoth, 3 colorless and 2 green, legendary elemental creature. When the Protector of Argoth enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. Sun Titan, 4 colorless and 2 white for a 6/6 with vigilance. Whenever the Sun Titan attacks or enters the battlefield, you can return target permanent card with converted mana cost of 3 or less. Again, lands 0 casting cost because they don't have one, from your graveyard to the battlefield. We of course have Seeds of Renewal as well from last year's commander. This is 6 colors and 1 green, but generally will cost you less because Undaunted reduces it by 1 for each opponent you have. Return up to 2 target cards from your graveyard to your hand, and then exile the seeds. Okay, so we have ways to get stuff back. What about untapping our lands? Well, we're only running a couple here. So we have Kiora's Follower, which is a Simic, that is a green and a blue. Tap to untap another target permanent. We have Magus of the Candelabra. This is from Battle Bond. So for 1 green, we can pay X and tap it to untap X target lands, which can be really helpful when we want to win. And of course, Seedborn Muse allows us to potentially win during other players' turns. By paying 3 and 2 green, we get a creature spirit that's a 2/4 and untap all permanents you control during each other player's untapped step. Okay, that's all well and good. We need to find a way to accelerate how many lands we can play at once. So we have Burgeoning. This is 1 green for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you can put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. We have Growth Spiral. This is a Simic, or a green and a blue, for an instant. Draw a card and then put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Pretty good because it just replaces itself. It's a cantrip. Rights of Flourishing, 2 colorless and 1 green. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Each player may play an additional land on each of his or her turns, their turns. Girapra Orrery. This is 4 colors for an artifact. Each player may play an additional land on each of his or her turns, their turns. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, that player draws 4 cards. Urban Evolution, 3 colors and a Simic, or green and a blue. Draw 3 cards. You may play an additional land this turn. Getting a theme here, right? Gitrog Monster. That's right, Creepy Frog is back. 3 colors, a black and a green, for a Death Touch legendary creature Frog Horror. And of course, it's a big 6/6. Death Touch, I think we already discovered that one. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster unless you sacrifice a land. When you play an additional land on each... At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster unless you sacrifice a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into the graveyard from anywhere, you get to draw a card. Tatiova Benthic Druid is part of our draw engine. So for 3 colors and a Simic, we get a legendary creature Merfolk Druid that is a 3/3. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. Back to the extra lands, we got Courser of Crufix, which is 2 green and 1 for an enchantment creature Centaur. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library if it's a land card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. We also have Whitewood Sawtooth. This is 2 colors and 1 green for a dinosaur with Ascend. And you may play an additional land in each of your turns. We don't care about the City's Blessing stuff. We are, of course, playing Curate the Crashing Wave. Draw a card. You can play an additional land this turn. And Kira, Master of the Depths. Untap up to 1 target creature and 1 target land. So this can untap your Maze's End, which is pretty cool. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a creature card and or a land card from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. More ways to chuck stuff into the bin that you don't want, that you're not going to need. Alright, so that's pretty much the deck. There's just one last thing to talk about, and that is, why would we be playing something like Ramos? Well, Evasion. It's a 4/4 flyer for 6. It doesn't sound very good on its own. So we want a way that we can actually win the game, and that is commander damage, with Kessig Wolfrun, which we can search out pretty easily in this deck. This is a land that taps for 1 colors, but what we're interested in is playing a Gruul, or a green and a red, an X, and tap it. Target creature gets +X/+0 and gains trample until the end of turn. So we do have other ways that we can win the game if we need to. There's of course some really other funky things in the deck. So if you look down below, you will find a list of this deck. Because, you know, you're playing lands and stuff. There's other ways that you can do things and be really cruel to your opponents. So that's it from me today. I really hope you enjoyed this quick deck tech, as quick as possible. I'm a bit muddled today, and I hope that you're having a great day. This is